Welcome in the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're also on Dash Radio on your Nothing But Net channel every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Also, check out 5 Reasons YouTube for all of our other Heat programming. Also, our Dolphins programming, which will be resuming soon. New episode of The Extra Yard coming up as we get ready for Dolphins camp. Also, check out 5reasonsports.com. That's FIVE, reasonsports.com for all your latest South Florida sports content with no paywall. And check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We know this is not the finals that you expected, so make it more interesting. Bet it. Go to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. They've got the great odds and prop bets to fill all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. They've got the Stanley Cup Finals. They got the NBA Finals, of course. They got the daily MLB, MLS, and all the best in combat sports. If you're waiting for the right time, the time is now. Make your winning move today. Sign up. Use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. You've heard that one from us before. FIVE. Receive an up to $1,000 bonus along with your first deposit at mybookie.ag. Again, so use the promo code 5, FIVE, to claim your bonus. Experience sports in a whole new light and have a chance at some serious cash along the way. The live betting, they have the best live betting platform. I can guarantee you that. I've played a few of these. It's also real easy to get your money from them, which is important. You win. You want to make sure you get your money. Go to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. Use the code 5, FIVE. And now, tonight's episode.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
on the floor.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily show on the Miami Heat and the NBA featuring Ethan Skolnick with Alex Toledo and Greg Sylvander, part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back on 5 on the Floor. Make sure you catch our last episode. We got into the Hawks and the Clippers, some of the storylines that emerged from the 2 conference finalists that lost and how that may affect the Heat. In the Hawks case, whether or not they get a better future than the Heat. In the Clippers case, whether maybe some of their players may spring free for the Heat. Now we're going to talk about the Suns and the Bucks. Nobody had this finals before the season. I will say before the playoffs started, I did have the Bucks in the finals. So I did play that at mybookie.ag. But I got one more step to go there. I'm a little bit surprised by the fact that the Suns are big favorites in this series. Did not anticipate that. I think some of that is the uncertainty over Giannis. But, I mean, the Bucks were considered to be a better team than the Suns coming into this year. And the Suns just pretty much came together under the leadership of James Jones, former Heat player, of course, former player. He's done a great job, and I'm happy for James personally. James made my 1 year in Cleveland much more enjoyable. I would sit there before every game and just shoot the bleep with him and Mike Miller while I was living in hell. So let's get to it. By the way, that's the All-Star game you want to go to next year, Greg, in Cleveland in February. You'll be there alone. All right, let's get to this topic. I've got Greg Sylvander, tonight's floor plan. I've got Alex Toledo, Tropical Blanket. We're going to get into some of the takeaways from the finals and how they impact the Heat. Greg, you had a list of some of these. Obviously, Jay Crowder is going to be the parallel that people bring up. I don't know that Jay Crowder is the reason the Suns are in the finals. Certainly, teams that he's on tend to win more. He does a lot of winning things. But I don't want to over-focus on Jay Crowder here. What are your kind of number one takeaways from the 2 teams that made it?
It's interesting. So, like, if we just before we go into some of like kind of the overarching big takeaways, just basketball wise, if we think about last season, the Heat were this, really good offensive team, but they kind of struggled defensively, and we saw where they ended the season. And then this year it was the exact opposite, where they were kind of inverted and were a good defensive team. So keeping that in mind, in points scored, Milwaukee was first and Phoenix was sixth this year. Field goal percentage, they were both top 3. 3-point percentage, they were both in the top 7. So those are just some stats that when I look at offense, it's interesting to see the parallels of the 2 teams that have arrived. But then like you dig into it a little bit deeper, right? And I think about how Milwaukee in particular, like they got undressed by Miami and they went out aggressively and they threw caution to the wind, and they were risky, but they were aggressive in plugging the holes that they saw on the roster. and it paid off. And I think that that's a huge takeaway for Miami this offseason, because it shows that you can get bounced by a team, trounced by a team, and you can come back and you can regroup and kind of build off of that. So that was a huge takeaway for me. I know we're going to talk about a few others, but so basketball wise, offense is winning these days, guys. And then the other one is just I like the idea of them getting aggressive and building around their stars in Giannis in Milwaukee.
Well, Alex, I mean, they were criticized for some of what they did this offseason, in part because they seemed to botch it. They made the very aggressive move for Holiday, but it came after they didn't make a run at Chris Paul, which a lot of folks thought that they were going to do. And then they did get Bogdanovich, who was Giannis's friend, but they didn't seem to clear it with Bogdanovich or with anybody else from a cap perspective. John Horst was widely criticized, that he might lose his job for the way he handled the entire thing. And yet they're in the finals, ahead of a Brooklyn team. Yes, not healthy, but ahead of a Philadelphia team that imploded as they always do. They made it, right? So, are they validated?
Absolutely. Just by getting now to the finals, I think they're absolutely validated given the context of, the small market franchise and all of that stuff that has been talked about in the NBA for a long time. This is a different type of matchup than we're used to as NBA fans in the finals. It's weird, but I think it's good for the league. And I think the Bucks and the Suns are both really deserving. I think they're both, like Leif was talking about, both really balanced two-way teams. And I think they're both deserving. Even though I think most of us and a lot of us probably think that if Brooklyn was all the way healthy, that you probably have them being here at this point now. Obviously the same type of arguments have been made for the Suns. And I just think it's, both of these teams played who were in front of them and beat them. And that's really what it comes down to. And they were both great all season during the regular season. The Bucks have been great for the past two regular seasons before that. They've been looked at as a finals type team for the past few years. It's, I think Giannis is a deserving player to be in the finals too. I just think it's going to be a great matchup. I think both of these teams have gotten over the hump, and I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to win. The whole injury stuff is weird, but I think the Bucks absolutely deserve to be here. They are validated, and the whole concept and theme of aggression, I just think all of that is, it's the Heat need to take notes there.
Let's look at Phoenix. I know that from a Heat fan perspective, the number one thing that's going to come up is Justice Beder and Devin Booker, and we've put that to rest. Obviously, Devin Booker is an elite 3-level scorer now. He's a top 20 player in the entire NBA. It was a miss. We can talk about the circumstances with Justice, and things could have worked out differently if he was healthy, if he'd been turned over the point guard position, if he doesn't hurt his back, if he doesn't have a dispute with the organization, all the rest of this. But you can't argue with the fact that Justice Winslow wasn't in a playoff rotation this year, and Devin Booker is an elite scorer in the NBA who's going to the Olympics. Okay, so it's over. I still got the T-shirts, but it's over. The other thing that's going to, but to me, the key thing that needs to be kind of talked about with the Suns, a couple of things. One is, I think that James Jones, and I know this from a lot of conversations with him about ball because he likes to talk about it, is James Jones believes in blending veterans with young players. That's a conversation we had a lot. If you look at what they've done in Phoenix, Mikal Bridges, okay, not a player he acquired, but player that they've plugged in there, paired with a vet in Jay Crowder. DeAndre Ayton, giving him Chris Paul to kind of bring him along, okay, and the Cameron Payne, a reclamation project, but a young player that they've put in a certain position here. I think that the Heat, again, the Heat had kind of a blend of vets and young players when they went to the finals. You had Dragic and Iguodala and Butler, and Haslam obviously not playing, but also with this group of young players. I think it does validate that model can work. But the biggest thing I think the Heat will take away from it is when you have a chance to get a high-level player who's extremely competitive, even if he's a little older and on a big contract, you go get the guy. And I do think that what the Suns have done with Chris Paul, not that Kyle Lowry is Chris Paul, I do think it's informative for the Heat right now. And I think that if Kyle Lowry is signed, one of the things that will be said either behind the scenes or publicly is, we think he can do some things here that Chris Paul did in Phoenix. Maybe not to the same level. Kyle Lowry is a Hall of Famer, I think, but he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer like Chris Paul. But Greg, don't you think that that's going to be used in some ways to validate cost, maybe with Lowry or maybe with somebody else who's in their 30s.
Yeah, no, I think that Lowry is the prime example of the guy that you look at and say, Chris Paul, had all of these things where they were talking about having to attach picks to him. And it's like, you also have to look around the league and see, is there anybody else out there that anybody wants to attach a couple picks to that could unlock future flexibility? So it's like, you almost have to reevaluate these guys around the league that people are just kind of canceling and just saying that they're fodder, and really taking a hard look and saying, are these guys that? So there's that part of it. And then there's also, when you have a guy, and this is where the Kyle Lowry thing, and I'm circling back to it, when you have a guy like that may be potentially interested in coming, whether it's 25 million or 30 million, and the investment makes you squirm, if it's that much per year, just do it. Get the proven guy and let's go.
Well, and also I think, Chris Paul has a very similar basketball mentality to Kyle Lowry, to Jimmy Butler, who they're trying to build around right now. But is there anything else, Alex, that you would take from the Phoenix build, which, happened to a certain degree? It happened not overnight because, Booker was drafted before. Some of these guys were brought in by, Brian McDonough, who got panned on the way out because he missed on so many guys. But like even James Jones's pick of Cam Johnson was trashed at the time. They overdrafted him, right? He could have gone in the teens. He went in the top 10. And he's been a core rotation player for them. So is there anything else you take?
No, I just think you guys have nailed it. I think along the way, all the different paths that you can take to improving a team, they've kind of nailed it as far as the past year, not, the past few years or anything like that, because the Suns were absolutely not doing the right thing at all before. They've just kind of been stockpiling along the way for those past couple of years, added veterans last year, and that took them from the level of a bad lottery team to a team that had playoff hopes when the bubble ended and they went on that 8-game win streak, and it seemed like they were up and coming. Like they had added Ricky Rubio, they had added Kelly Oubre, they had added Aaron Baines, and were getting production from different guys there, so you could see the trajectory of a team that was getting better. And I think the Suns and the Hawks are kind of the two different parallels for, in the West and the East, like the two teams that got out of that category and are officially in that contender category now. So they did it by adding Chris Paul, though. So that parallel, and not just him, of course, we went over the other different things that have happened there, internal improvement and acquisitions. But the Chris Paul acquisition absolutely is a parallel to Lowry, because even though I don't consider them, in the same echelon, I think Chris Paul is one of the top 30 players ever. So I think Lowry is still at the top of his game and has a similar skill set to Chris Paul has, and fills a similar hole that Paul filled in Phoenix. And I think it's also great that Paul's going to be playing the Bucks, because me, I was harping all over that last offseason, that to be worried about the Bucks landing Chris Paul, and I was just kind of trashing them for, as much as I like Jrue Holiday, for not going after him when you could have had him for less. And I just think now you're just seeing the value of what having that playmaker does for the rest of your team. They need that type of guy to optimize the rest of their roster.
Well, you mentioned optimizing. It's a great point, because I do think that the single biggest thing that Bam Adebayo needs right now is a point guard who can optimize him. Everything else we've talked about, I keep coming back to that.
The whole team needs it.
The whole team, but
Jimmy,
particularly their franchise player going forward needs it. Okay. Because if you see the way that it's helped DeAndre Ayton, that is number one. Chris Paul gets DeAndre Ayton 3 easy buckets per game. Okay. Just gets him right into the game from the very beginning. They need that. But the other thing I think that has validated the Heat's approach to a certain degree in terms of what the Suns have done is when they identify a player that fits their program, they don't care if you think they overdrafted the player. I mentioned Cam Johnson. Nobody's criticizing the Suns anymore for passing on Luka and Trey. Okay. Both of whom may ultimately, Luka is generational. Okay. And Trey looks like he has it. Okay. Both of them may go down as two of the top players of their particular generation. But DeAndre Ayton, and I always believe in going for the best player, not for need. But DeAndre Ayton is a rare species. DeAndre Ayton is a big who you can play in the playoffs like that, just like Bam. Okay, different kind of player. So to a certain degree, they did nail that pick. Like, would you take Luka? Yes,
of course.
Okay. Would you take Trey? I don't know. Okay. Because I think what Trey's upside obviously is a score and everything else, but Ayton is a rarer player in the modern NBA. Like they schemed Gobert off the floor, right? Okay.
Trey almost beat the Bucks just now. They got to the conference finals.
I think this is where
some respect here.
But are the Suns where they are without Ayton? I don't think so.
No,
he's their third best player, and Trey is the engine for that Hawks team.
This is where what I think Ethan is saying is that if you took Trey Young and Devin Booker and you said those are my two guys leading my franchise, is everybody on this podcast or listening saying that those two guys are going to spearhead a championship? I don't know. So that's where it's like when you look at the build with Chris Paul and the other guys around them, DeAndre Ayton makes a lot of sense there too.
That's what I'm getting at. Look, Luka to me is 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Luka is generational. Okay. Luka may go down as a top 10 player of all time. Okay.
I think Trey is closing that gap, man.
I don't think Trey is going to go down as a top 10 player of all time. I think Trey.
I don't think Luka's going down there either.
No, I don't know. If this was on video, you would see Greg's face right now. You don't think
we're getting way ahead of ourselves for a guy who hasn't out of the first round yet? No, I don't think Luka's going to be top 10 all time. What are we talking about right now? Top 10 all time? We have arguments about whether
his second best player this year was Tim Hardaway Jr. Okay,
no, it's fine. I get it.
So you're saying he's going to be better than Dwayne? Wow.
No, that's crazy. No. I'm sorry.
All right. After you know what? We're going to break. Be quiet. We're going to break. We're coming back. We're going to preview the finals here real quick. Before we do, we want to tell you about therapistpreferred.com. You need to recover after listening to that segment. This is where you want to go. CBD company founded in 2019 by a physical therapist and maximize performance and recovery for active people. 100% THC free and third-party lab verified. All the products made in the U.S. with cutting-edge technology from organically grown hemp. But again, you will not fail a drug test. Don't worry about that. The most popular products are the CBD sports cream, the strawberry lemonade gummies, and the green apple gummies. You use the promo code 5 Reasons. That's the number 5 Reasons. You'll get 25% off your order plus free shipping on all orders. 25% off plus free shipping. Use the code 5. That's the number 5 Reasons. You type it in, you will see the price change. Okay, at therapistpreferred.com. Greg tweeted about this, and somebody asked him, is it a sedative? Not a sedative per se, but it will make you feel better in general. I can tell you now that, like, it's the last thing I do before I decide I'm going to sleep. Okay. So it just after, especially after a day where I've worked out or something like that, it's definitely something you want to do. Therapistpreferred.com, therapistpreferred.com. Use that code 5 Reasons to get 25% off. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to do the Luka debate another day here because anyway, we'll move on from this. We'll all be saying he's top 10 if Goran gets him to come to Miami in a couple of years. Let's get to the finals real quick here, though. Quick predictions, 45 seconds or less. Let's do these. Alex, who do you like?
I got Suns here, man. The stuff with Giannis's injury and just the concerns over his health scare me. I think it's going to be a great series if both teams are healthy, but I think the Suns got the type of roster to kill the Bucks drop, even if they are healthy. And I really do trust the decision-making of their two backcourt players because it really is. And by the way, I forgot to say this earlier. The Justice Better thing was never about Devin Booker. We could have that conversation another time. But so I'm not here to be petty with Devin Booker at all. The guy is a great player. I trust the both of them to be efficient and great at what they do. Aiden has proven to me that he's a real legit third best player on a championship contender. Bridges is for real. We know Crowder's a good player. Like they're stacked and they have the type of roster that can give the Bucks problems and the two types of guards that can close it out. I got the Suns in 6.
I have the Suns in 6 as well because and Devin Booker is going to win Finals MVP, and that is because I wrote the lyrics to Justice Better, so it's only karmic. It's beautiful karmic energy that's how this transpires. So you got Bucks in 6. I think you should
play that on a loop before the finals.
How about no?
That you do. I like the Bucks in this series, guys. I do, and it's not just because I liked them before the playoffs started. I'm not especially concerned about the Giannis injury since I've heard a little bit more about it. And here's the thing about it. I think Chris Middleton is going to do some damage.
I agree,
particularly late in games. I feel I like Bridges on him. I like Crowder on him. If they do that, I think
he's figured something out though, hasn't he?
I think he has. I think he's taken a mini leap here. And I know that last year I called him, what did I call him? I can't remember. What was the nickname?
It was disparaging. It was, oh my gosh. Come on, Alex. We need you here. We need your young brain.
Oh, you were saying he's Mo Williams.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Swingman Mo Williams.
That's what it was.
He's clearly better than Swingman Mo Williams. I'm not going to go as far as that ridiculous Kendrick Perkins take that he's Batman and Giannis is Robin. Kendrick Perkins, get off my TV. But I do think he's going to do damage here late in games. And I also think having Drew Holiday available to guard whoever has it going, whether it's Chris Paul or Devin Booker, I think will make a major difference in this series. And I also think Brook Lopez is going to be sneaky good in this series like he was in the last one. I think some of that veteran guile against Ayton will be useful. He's a tough matchup for people. You don't really know how to prepare for a guy like Brook these days, even as slow-footed as he is. I like the Bucks in 7. I think it's a competitive series. I think this is a basketball junkies series. This is not a series that's going to draw ratings. We're going to see all kinds of national reports about the collapse of the NBA. When does Space Jam debut, or premiere or whatever. But I think if you're a basketball fan, you're going to enjoy this series. I do think it's been a pretty awful season in my view in a lot of ways. But I do think we've got two pretty good teams here that are good stories. Check out mybookie.ag. Use the code 5. Prizepicks.com. Didn't mention them on the episode, but get in there for the finals. Get a chance to play. That's daily fantasy, not betting on the game. That's daily fantasy. Use the code 5 for that one as well. And then therapistpreferred.com. Get 25% off. Use the code 5 reasons. We will do the Luka debate another day. Justice Better.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.